Actor Michael K. Lee has taken the Korean musical scene by storm with his powerful voice and delicate expressions. Since his Broadway debut in 1995 with Miss Saigon, it has taken him 10 years to find his place in the Korean musical world. As a Korean American, transition to Korea was not easy, but his talent and magnetism soon earned him a fandom. Being bilingual, he was able to take both Korean and English performances to establish himself as a star performer. Recently performing in the Taiwan tour of the Korean adaptation of Hedwig and the Angry Inch, Michael Lee has also been spearheading the wave of K-musical abroad. We meet with the glorious star on the glamorous stage, as well as the real Michael Lee backstage. Such a pleasure to meet you. Welcome to our program.
Thank you very much. It's really exciting to be here.
Now, you just wrapped up a tour in Taiwan's National Taichung Theater at
That's
the
right.
end of last month. You're about to begin the second round of performances. How excited are you?
I'm really excited to go back. You know, our run at the National Taichung Theater went better than expected. We didn't know exactly what the reception would be. Because it was the first time for us to, number one, go to Taiwan, and how this sort of show with sort of all the topics in it, transgender and immigration and all that kind of stuff, how it would go over in Taiwan at this point in time. It went over really, really well. The audiences really loved it. They, you know, we did use super titles, so I didn't have to speak Chinese or anything like that, thank goodness.
That helps.
But we used super titles, and I did learn a handful of phrases in Chinese. So our preparations right now to go to Taipei, we're really working hard to make it even better than we did in Taichung, because we know what the audiences are expecting. We know what we're expecting. So I hope we're not expecting too much. But but this time we go with a bit more of an open heart and with a little less trepidation. So
Okay. Would you say you're in tip-top shape right now?
as a musical actor, I dare say that, you know, we're rarely in tip-top shape, only because sort of the demands on the musical actor are quite strenuous, you know. Well, in the United States, we're required to perform 8 times a week. In Korea, you know, a lot of times we're double or triple cast now. So it's a little bit easier, but because the musical industry is as vibrant as it is now in Korea, many actors, such as myself, are doing many projects at the same time. So, you know, I'll be doing 3 shows of 1 show in Seoul, and then I'll be doing 3 or 4 shows on tour during the weekends, as well as rehearsing another show during the day. So, am I in tip-top shape? Probably not, but
as good as it gets.
As good as I can be, and I think that's what, as professionals, we're asked to do.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Hedwig and the Angry Inch, I believe, is an American production, but this show has been interpreted as a Korean version, I believe. And how is it different from the original?
Hedwig and the Angry Inch was a production that originated off Broadway in America by the author named John Cameron Mitchell. Fantastic show. Now, the production we have in Korea that has been playing for 12 seasons, I believe, it is the Korean version, but it's basically the American script translated into Korean.
Okay.
It's very much same show, sort of one of the allowances that John Cameron Mitchell, the creator, has given to any actor who has played this part, who has worn the shoes of Hedwig. You're allowed a lot of freedom in how you want to tell this story. You can incorporate current events, you can incorporate geographical location, you can incorporate what's going on in your personal life, as long as it's funny.
Okay.
So that's sort of the caveat that he gave. Now, Korean audiences have been very lucky to have witnessed some of Korea's best musical theater actors play this part.
Sure.
And each of them brings sort of their own unique flavor to the character. You know, the version that we have is the Korean version in the sense that it's our set, it's our costumes, it's our lighting, it's our band. But the text and the songs obviously are the same.
I see.
The core of the text.
I've got a sweet tooth for licorice drops and jelly roll. Hey, sugar daddy, Hansel needs some sugar in his bowl. I'll lay out fine china on the lane, polish up the chrome. If you got some sugar for me, sugar daddy, bring it home. Last time I saw you, we had just split in two. You were looking at me, I was looking at you. You had a way so familiar that I could not recognize. 'Cause you had blood on your face and I had blood in my eyes. And I could tell by your expression that the pain down in your soul was the same as the one down in mine. That's the pain that cuts a straight line down through the heart. We call it love. We wrap our arms around each other, we shove ourselves back together. We're making love, making love.
Now, Hedwig has a huge cult following, and like you said, many actors, great actors, have played the role, such as Cho Sung-woo, Yoon Do-hyun,
Yeah.
and Gi-jun, of course. And you play the English, the role in English in Taiwan, and actor Oh Man-seok, I believe, plays
Yes.
the role in Korean. So tell us about how the reception was in Taiwan.
My version of Hedwig is slightly different from the other Korean actors who've done this show. What the Korean actors have done is sort of transplant the idea, the set, the time, the atmosphere of the show, specifically back to when the show was written. They're playing the part as though they're in New York City, in a club, performing to the nightly patrons of where this club would be. I had discussed with the producers of the show here in Korea if we could possibly make it such that Hedwig was coming to Korea for the first time.
Huh.
And so my show incorporates this character, present time, present day, present location. So no matter where I go, whether it be Taichung or last year when we did it here in Seoul, I have to make it very specific to where we are. Like I'll have to reference the people who are working at the theater. I'll have to I'll have to talk about how the weather is. I'll have to talk about the local cuisine. And so I think that sort of immediately brings a very close connection between my character and the audience. It really helps establish that relationship between the performer and the audience.
I was going to ask, because Hedwig is a transgender from East Germany who's traveling across the US trying to make it big with the rock band. So I would think that there's a bit of a departure from yourself, but somehow you find that connection with the character.
Yeah, it's a big disconnect with who I am in reality. It's a part that I really, really respect, and it's a part that I have really admired since I saw the movie. It's a character that I can sort of empathize a lot with.
Okay.
Hedwig is somebody who's misunderstood, who's out of place, who, in order to find her voice, has to give up a part of herself, and, well, literally give up a part of herself.
Yes.
As an artist, it's a situation that all artists can relate to. Anybody who's in the arts, anybody who's in a field where they have to expose themselves in one way, shape, or form. As an actor, as an Asian American actor, we go through life trying to figure out, not just as an Asian American actor, but as an Asian American. You grow up in a place where you're not always the same as other people. Particularly me, where I grew up in a a city where my family was the only Korean American family, was the only Asian American family in the city. And you know, that sense of being on the outside, of being different, of feeling like maybe I have to change myself in order to assimilate into the world around me. It's a very scary place, you know, but it's something that I think, you know, when you're young and you don't have a lot of life experience, it's something that you're willing to do, something that you want to do. And it's not until later that you realize it's probably something that, well, it's absolutely something that you don't have to do. It's something that you just have to sort of, as you gain more life experience, you learn what you have to offer the world, and that the world has a big enough sort of arm space to embrace that, you know, like, and that's sort of where I come from, you know, that's sort of what my journey has been, is that, you know, as I've learned more about myself through acting, but in general just through living, as you learn more about yourself, you learn more that it's not your responsibility to fit some mold that you think the world expects of you, but rather you create the mold that you sort of run into the arms of the world to, if that makes any sense.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. So you do see some resemblance between yourself and Hedwig.
Yeah, I think in that sense of finding yourself,
Sure.
you know, and that sense of discovering your voice, understanding your place in the world. Yeah.
We're all trying to do that, right?
Absolutely.
Life is
And I
a
think that's
learning
one of the things that's great
process.
about Hedwig, is that, you know, I think people can see this sort of really crazy character, this transgender East German rock star, and you see her go through this journey, and you start to understand, you know, why she did it, and the lengths that she went in order to achieve it, and then you ask the question at the end, was it worth it, you know, and you know, that's up for the audience to decide, and but it's a wonderful, wonderful show.
Now, on a lighter note, the thing about double casting, the audience gets to select actor you want to go see act. As an actor, I would think that there's a bit of there is competition, comparison, and all of that. How is it like?
If I were to be totally honest, there are good things and there are bad things, of course. When I first came to Korea way back in 2006 to do Miss Saigon, I insisted that I would be single cast because that was what I was used to in the United States. In terms of a role and being cast in a role, that role is, you know, in my mindset at the time, that role is yours, and you breathe life into this character, you breathe life into the words and songs that are given to you. What I've learned is that, particularly with musicals and plays and art in general, nothing is entirely yours anyway. You know, what you're doing is not only for you, but it's for the audience, really. It's for the people watching. And so the fact that other people are cast in one part along with you is actually a gift, because you can actually see other ways that this part can be interpreted.
Sure.
You can share your ideas of how a part should be interpreted. It's wonderful. You know, I've only had great experiences being double cast, a triple cast here in Korea, and some of my best friends have been people that I've been cast with. So
You play the role of Dr. Frankenfurter in the Rocky Horror Show. Now, another atypical gender role. Tell us about this character and how you came to play this role.
너무 걱정 마 baby 두려움에 떨 필요는 없어 호밤의 열기가 모두 날릴 거야 I'll get you what's your tenic mechanic I'm
Rocky Horror Show has been a cult classic in the United States forever and a day. The Rocky Horror Picture Show, the movie version of the show, actually. It's a show that I've always admired, but never in a million years did I think I would be able to do. So when they first announced that they were doing it, I was really excited, and I was wondering, you know, how will that go over in Korea? But even here in Korea, I didn't think that this was sort of my kind of part. And then we had a discussion with the producers, and they asked if I'd be interested in being a part of the show, and I said, well, of course I'm interested, but you know, is this really something that sort of fits the idea of what Michael Lee, the actor, is? And then after I asked that question out loud, I realized, well, that's a silly thing to ask. I mean, you're an actor, you know? This is actually probably one of the best opportunities that you'd probably never be given if you were in the States. So after I said that out loud, I realized that this was something that I had to do, that it's something that I would, well, number one, I'd love to do. And then sort of as we got more in depth into the show, it was something that I really, really never stop enjoying doing night after night. The freedoms that I have in playing this character are fantastic. He's an alien. He's from another planet. He's a transvestite, meaning he's a masculine being that likes dressing up in feminine clothes. He creates life, creates a human being. And so you put all that into a pot and mix it together and you come up with, you know, something that's super fun and exciting to play.
On the flip side, you play Jesus in Jesus Christ Superstar, and you have an amazing rendition of Gethsemane. Wow, that really gives me goosebumps. You really are amazing. How much practice do you have to put in to do that?
You know, the first time that I was given the opportunity to play the role of Jesus was way back in 2011 in a production of Jesus Christ Superstar directed by Brian Yorkie, who wrote Next to Normal. Before I did the part, I didn't think I could sing that song. I mean, it's one of the great pieces in the musical theater canon that sort of is on another level, not just storytelling-wise, but musically. It's one of the most difficult songs to sing, and it requires physical preparation and mental preparation. So just physically, technically, it was something that I wasn't able to do. And it wasn't until I got into the rehearsal room that, with the assistance of my director and my fellow actors around me, that I was able to find a way to get that note. And it was really sort of this symbiotic experience of putting together the intention of the character with sort of the vocal preparation that I had done that made it happen. And once it did happen, I could always continue to do it. That was sort of like, you know, just getting over that fear or that mental sort of hurdle of saying, the impossible is possible. So, you know, I got to follow that up with the production of Jesus Christ Superstar here in Korea in 2013, I believe, directed by Gina Lee, one of Korea's, in my opinion, treasures. She's a genius who helped me sort of find more layers in that song. And yeah, it's sort of a song that I'm identified with here in Korea now, which I'm very lucky.
How do you stay in shape, as in your vocal cords? How do you take care of yourself?
You have to take care of your body, and your vocal cords are your instrument. Physical upkeep is absolutely mandatory, so I exercise vigorously and diligently. And in terms of vocal health, you have to watch what you eat. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't eat late at night. One of the wonderful things that one of my mentors told me a long time ago about that relates to physical upkeep of your body and your mind for performing was, he said, you're not paid for the 2.5 hours to 3 hours that you're on stage. You're actually paid for the 21 hours you take care of yourself off stage. The sleep, the eating, the exercise, the maintaining your instrument so that for the 3 hours that you're on stage in front of that audience, you're exactly where you need to be.
Now, you've been on stage for so many performances. Of the many performances that you've been involved with, what is the one show that made you who you are, that put you on the map, do you think?
Every show is special and unique in its own way, but I was very lucky to have my debut in
Miss Saigon?
in a Broadway blockbuster. 21 years old and no previous stage experience, and just sort of jumping right into this major show. You know, that sort of established me as a player in the game, I think, from the very start, which was very exciting, but again, very scary, because when you start at the top, the only place to go is down, right? But, you know, that sort of put me in the mix of musical theater performers from the very get-go. Now, there have been many shows that have sort of given me sort of a lot of momentum. I think Jesus Christ Superstar in Korea did a lot for me. It sort of allowed Korean audiences, at the very least, to see that I was capable of doing something besides what they knew me as. And it sort of introduced me to the grander audiences here in Korea. And so that sort of launched my career here in Korea. So that was a big one. That was a big one for me.
Now, since your debut in Miss Saigon in 2006, I believe, so that's more than a decade ago.
That was my Korean
debut. I see.
Miss Saigon.
How have you grown as an actor?
My actual debut was 1995 with Miss
Wow.
Saigon. I feel like I'm very much the same person, but I can't pretend that 25 years of experience in the business hasn't changed me. Being an Asian American actor in the States isn't easy. There's limited roles. There's limited ideas of what the Asian American male actor can do. You know, we were at the time limited to sort of foreign parts, accented English parts, kung fu experts,
Sure.
computer programmers, that sort of thing. My life as an actor wasn't easy by any stretch. You know, I did get very lucky and start at the top, but then finding that next part after I did Miss Saigon was very difficult. I was very lucky to be able to explore what it was to be an actor and what it meant to be an actor, and if I was okay with being an actor, was sort of the life that was presenting itself, a life that didn't guarantee that I would know where my next paycheck was coming, a life that, you know, didn't guarantee that I'd be able to support not only myself, but if I ever wanted to have a family. You know, it was challenging. By the time I got to Korea, I knew that there was nothing ever in my life that I could take for granted. It made me appreciate every job that came in. It made me jump at the opportunity to try new things, to do new things, because in the States, opportunity didn't present itself that way. So since coming to Korea, work has been available, you know, to put it lightly. I've been very blessed to be able to work consistently here. I'm super thankful that, you know, I found a place where I could really stretch my acting wings. I found a place where I could continue to work on my craft and become better at what I love to do. Since my debut in Korea, I've grown, I think, a lot, because working in Korea and being required to work in a foreign language that's not my native tongue has made me work that much harder. I think that much harder than had I stayed in the United States and been comfortable.
Sure.
Yeah.
So your Korean name is Igang-sik, and you go by Michael Lee.
That's right.
How was it making into the mainstream in the U.S. as a Korean American, or as an Asian American, in fact?
Well, when you're younger, when I first entered into the business, I didn't sort of understand what the prejudices were. I didn't know or understand how difficult it would be to break in. It was just something I wanted to do. And you know, when you're young and eager and aggressive, you don't think about the odds against you. So to get into the show, you know, I auditioned for Miss Saigon for 2 years before I got into the show, actually.
How many
calls.
auditions is that?
It was probably close to 12 auditions in total, 12 to 15 auditions. You know, your original call, your callback, your dance callback, your callback for directors, then you start over if you don't get it that time, then a new company starts. It was a long and sort of arduous process. So breaking in, you know, my first show was with my Miss Saigon, and you know, that's as great of a start as you can have. So I sort of broke into the business, the mainstream from the get-go, but sort of maintaining your position there has been the challenging aspect because, you know, I was very lucky and fortunate for that opportunity to be there when I needed it. But those opportunities are few and far between when you're an Asian American actor. And so, you know, it just took diligence and patience and persistence. And it's not so much about enjoying the work when you get it. It's about enjoying the process of finding that work. That's where the majority of your time is spent as an actor, is trying to find and sort of hustle up the work that you eventually want to get. Yeah.
Now you came back to Korea 5 years ago, I believe. Why?
I've been going back and forth between Korea and the United States from 2006 to 2013, all for Miss Saigon actually. 2013 offered a different opportunity with a new show, Jesus Christ Superstar with Gina Lee. And after finishing Jesus Christ Superstar, it was my wife who actually sort of directed me to the thought that musicals are now not just an American art form. It's sort of expanding to being this world art form that we as Americans don't fully understand the sort of the scope of it. Yes, American musical theater, well, musical theater is an American art form, absolutely, but it has sort of grown and evolved to sort of mediums that we didn't really fully understand. When we first came here, we didn't understand what the European musical was, the French musical. There were imports from France and Austria and Germany that were here that I had never heard of. And so my wife told me, there's this incredibly blossoming musical theater world here in Korea, that there's opportunities to be had here that aren't necessarily in the States anymore, and she was right. And so for that reason, we decided to stay here in 2013 to see what the climate would be like. Also, you know, starting in 2013, actually starting in 2009 and then again in 2011, I have a family now, and being an actor in the United States, a stage actor specifically, you have to travel a lot to make a living. Not only, you know, within the United States, which is vast, and so I would be separated from my family for long periods of time. Being based in Seoul has sort of made it possible for us to stay together as a unit, regardless of how far a local tour is or how long a show is. It's all here in Seoul. So for the sake of our family and for the sake of opportunities, we decided to set up base here.
I see. You met your wife on Broadway, and she's a musical actress as well. And so tell us about your love story and how she influences your acting as well.
Well, my wife and I did Pacific Orders together in 2004 on Broadway. It's one of Stephen Sondheim's masterpieces. And we met then. I was lucky enough to convince her to marry me. And since then, she went on to graduate school and got her master's in arts administration at Columbia University. She's a professor at Keimyung University in musical history and musical acting. On top of that, she's also an acting coach here in Seoul to young actors and actresses, and me. So does she critique me? Absolutely. She's the first person I go to whenever I'm doing a show. She's incredibly, incredibly well-versed in theater. She's incredibly smart, and so I trust her opinion above everyone else's, including my own. So I'm very lucky to have an extra set of eyes on me, in addition to my directors and my producers and my managers. But my wife's critiques of my shows are the most important.
I'm sure when you're performing, you struggled, at least in the beginning, with the Korean language, just because you were born and raised in the U.S. How did you overcome that?
Well, I'm very lucky. Whenever I get involved in a show, I have to have a staff around me that can assist me with my Korean language and my Korean accent. I'm far from fluent, but my Korean is getting better. I have a tutor, and you know, just living day to day in Korea, watching Korean dramas, watching Korean movies, listening to Korean music, those sort of things, they help me sort of navigate the world in a different language.
Well, you were born and raised in the U.S. and you grew up as a Korean American and as a minority in the U.S. I'm sure you've had some issues with self-identity just as growing up as an adolescent. Do you think this kind of struggle, internal struggle that you may have had, contributed to your being a better actor?
I think so. Growing up as a Korean American, as a hyphenated American, as they call them in the United States, was challenging. You know, I grew up in a city where, as I said, we were the only Asian American family, and always having this sense of being different. But it was just my face that was different than everybody else's. I'd always felt my heart and my soul was American, and that was where the conflict was. That people saw my face and my hair and the shape of my eyes and judged me as a foreigner, when in fact I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and cheered for the Mets and, you know, loved hot dogs. It was probably through music and through being on stage that I found another way to sort of show myself to be just the same as everybody else. To use these parts, to use these words, to use this music to show everybody I'm just as American as everybody else. And I've never really thought about that. And with your question, it's making me think about it, which is really fantastic. But it is. It probably was another way of me sort of pushing myself into a society that wouldn't necessarily accept me. Yeah.
Now, you majored in psychology.
I did.
And had thought about going to medical school and decided against it and pursued acting, and here we are.
Yes, and here we are.
Tell us about the chaos that ensued following your decision.
My father was a surgeon and a great one, and a great doctor and a great man. I think more than anything, he wanted to see me follow in his footsteps so that we could sort of journey life together. And I had every intention on doing that. Not so much surgery, but I had desires of being a psychiatrist. But as I was sort of traversing that path, I realized that my heart wasn't into it. And so I had to have the conversation before my junior year of college to tell my father that I was going to start exploring other avenues outside of science, outside of psychology, outside of medicine. And one of my interests were entertainment. You know, even the suggestion of that started the divide between us. He wasn't happy at all. He wasn't supportive. So many first-generation Korean American parents have it in their minds that, you know, my job is to see you through, to send you to a place of higher learning where you can find a path that you can be secure and safe with. Lucky enough, I got into Stanford, and I think my father was very proud of that, but he wanted more than that. He wanted to see me become that doctor. And when I told him that I wasn't doing that, he was very upset and said, you know, that's not why you're at Stanford for. That's not the reason you're there. You're at this incredible place of higher learning in order to study what you're good at. You know, you don't know if you're good at singing, you don't know if you're good at acting, and furthermore, it's a world that is totally foreign to you. So why, you know? And if you decide to pursue this path, you know, we're done, essentially, in his Korean way. And, you know, my mom was sort of stuck in between us, and she'd said, you know, you can always continue your music as a hobby. And against my father's wishes, and in secret, I auditioned for Miss Saigon on my own. And lucky enough for me, I got in. Once I got in and invited my parents to the opening night performance, and my father saw how happy I was and how good I was at what I did, I think all of his fears dissipated. And you know, we had a great conversation in a car one day where he's like, all I want to do is support you to be as successful as you can be. And if you go this way, I can't help you, and that makes me feel lost. But as long as you know your way and you go on your own way, that's That's all I can ask for. As long as you work hard and continue to work hard in your life, I'll be proud. So, I've been lucky enough to continue doing that. There's never a day that goes by that I don't continue working, and I think my father sees that. He sees the life that it has given me, that it has given my family, that has extended to him. Like I mentioned before, it's been able to bring him back to Korea, something that I don't think he ever imagined on doing. But his son has found success in the land that he immigrated from.
Now, I know you played the role of Dong-ho in 서편제.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, that's a Korean musical. Is that a different experience?
It was. Right now I'm playing Frankenfurter in Rocky Horror Show, but I probably have more in common with that alien than I do to Dong-ho in 서편제.
How so?
Only because, and I say that in jest, it was a character that was endemically Korean. A character that, born and raised in Korea, is struggling with the idea of finding Han, that internal spirit that motivates everything and connects you to everything around you. Doing a show that sort of required sort of the Korean soul and the Korean spirit was probably my most challenging project to date. With Rocky Horror Show, I can make up what it means to be a transvestite alien, but you can't make up the history of what it means to be a Korean person, what it means to have a Korean soul, what it means to examine that soul to connect to the family around you. And so, it was hugely challenging. Technically speaking, it was my first show in Korea that required Korean dialogue, a Korean language with dialect.
Right.
This American soul jumping into this original Korean musical was probably was extremely scary for me. But it was a journey that I'm extremely thankful I had. It introduced me to some really, really wonderful Korean actors. They supported me and they became my family. I got through that project. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about Korean history, Korean culture, and in retrospect, it's probably one of my favorite theater experiences in my career.
Do you think living in Korea helps you better understand and act in Korean performances? Maybe
I think so. Being immersed within Korean culture, of course, benefits me. It slowly and I think unconsciously infiltrates into who I am. And I think that's why, sort of anybody who grows up in whatever environment they're in become that. That's why, for 35 years, I was in the United States. And so everything I lived, breathed, smoked, ate, drank was American,
Sure.
But, coming here back and forth since 2006, it's been 12 years. And so for 12 years now, I've sort of been living and breathing Korean culture, Korean spirit, that Han, if you will.
Sure.
And so I think it's definitely becoming more a part of me and more a part of who I am, and I'm incredibly thankful for it.
So Broadway and Korean musicals, I'm sure, different in size and staff and environment as well. What took you most by surprise?
Well, in the United States, we're very lucky to have actors' unions. The Actors Equity Association is the stage actors union. So when rehearsals are run, there are rules that mandate how long you can rehearse, with mandated breaks in terms of 10, 15, 30-minute breaks, eating time. Korea still being sort of, even though it's been an industry for about 25 years, they are not lucky enough yet to have those unions protecting the rights of the actors. That was a little bit surprising to me. When I first came here, it was with Miss Saigon, and the foreign staff came here, and they operated exactly like we do on Broadway. So I thought everything was going to be the same. When I did my first non-licensed production, where it was done entirely by a Korean production and a Korean staff, those breaks weren't mandated. They weren't set. Now, it is run very equitably and very fair, but it's not set in stone. Now, these are laws in the United States, and if they're not abided by, the producer will get in big trouble. And so the actors have a bit more established rights in the United States than they do here in Korea. That being said, you know, work conditions here have been very good in terms of musicals and working. Eventually in the future, those laws will come into play when actors start demanding a little bit more.
Sure.
Particularly the ensemble actors. You know, I think ensemble actors are the hardest working. They're probably given the least amount of respect, to be frank. And so in the future, I think, you know, when those changes come, it will be for the better for the industry as a whole here.
Now, you took part as the judge in a TV audition program called the Phantom Singer.
Phantom Singer.
So you're on the other side of the stage, judging them.
Judging rather than performing.
Right.
Yeah.
So what was that experience like?
That was amazing, which is a word I use a lot on the show, I was told. But it really was. You know, when they first came to me and asked me to be a part of this show, I'd assumed it was to be, as a performer, to be one of the people to try to get into the group. But they went on further and said, no, we'd actually like you to be one of the judges, one of the producers of the show. And I thought to myself, again, you know, as I said before, when I'm surprised by something, I have to take a step aside and ask myself, why am I surprised at this? And it's because I still very much identified myself as being only an actor and only a performer. When I thought about it, I thought, yeah, you know what? I've been in this industry for almost 25 years, and I know a lot about singing. I know a lot about performing. I know a lot about stage presence. This is something I could be good at. I could really contribute to. You know, it was really exciting, nerve-wracking, to be honest with you, at first, only because, you know, the division between me behind the desk and the performers in front of me was very little. You know, some of these contestants were people I performed regularly on stage with, and so they were my little brothers, if you will. And so, in that sense, it was really fun for me, in the sense that I could connect with these performers in a different way that the other judges couldn't. I knew exactly what they were going through. I knew exactly what nerves they had. I knew what I would feel if I were in their position. And so as a judge on that show, I could relate to them. As singers, they were all, you know, when they got to that level, they're all fantastic. And so in terms of assisting them in singing and musical interpretation, that's something that I didn't do as much of as the other judges did, but in terms of storytelling and stage presence and understanding the words that they were saying, those were things that I helped them with. Those are things that I enjoyed sort of talking about and telling them, you may think you're doing A, but what I'm saying is B. And I know why you're doing that because I live that. So being able to be that coach, that mentor, was invaluable to me.
As a viewer, I could see that your feedback was really heartfelt and that you really wanted to give them the much needed feedback.
I did, and you know, when you stop to think that a camera is on you and that other people, thousands, millions of people may be seeing what you're doing and what you're saying, you can get like sort of all freaked out and nervous and whatnot. So I had to tell myself, you know what? You got to forget about the cameras. You have to concentrate on being a mentor. You have to concentrate on what this one person needs from you, what you think would help you if you were that performer. And once I started doing that, it became so much more fun and it became exciting. And it really, you know, in the course of 12 weeks that we shot the show, you could see the growth of these men from sort of first-time, contestants to, these incredible stage performers. And the satisfaction you get is probably, is not unlike being a parent. You watch these guys grow and get brave and take more chances and work with other people, and it was really wonderful.
And I'm sure you saw a lot of talent there.
Yeah.
A lot of potential.
Absolutely.
Have you ever wanted to pursue another career? Do you have any regrets looking back in your 20-some years of musical acting career?
Regrets is an interesting word.
It is.
I can definitively say I've never had any regrets. This life that I've chosen, or the life that has chosen me, I'm not exactly sure, has been one that, when I look back on, has been a very blessed life. Had I not chosen this, the experiences that I've had, the people that I've met, none of them would have happened. I wouldn't have met my wife, therefore I wouldn't have had my sons. I wouldn't have been able to travel the world. I wouldn't be able to come back to the country that my parents immigrated from to find my own art and then to have the opportunity to bring them back. These are sort of fairy tale-like ideas to me, anyway. And so in terms of regrets, absolutely not. I'm so lucky to have been given this life. And again, it's something that I don't necessarily think I chose. I think it chose me in a very sort of supernatural, sort of cosmic sort of,
How is it living in the spotlight? You have fans. Are you an extrovert or are you an introvert? Do you have to be an extrovert to be a musical actor?
In fact, I don't think so at all. I think you'll find that many actors are introverts. When I took the Myers-Briggs personality test many, many years ago at school, I was classified as an introvert. And that I think speaks very true about my character. I think I act because I'm better out in the world when I can play a part.
I know
think,
what you mean.
You know what I mean? If I'm given the words to say, if I'm told where to stand, if I'm told what to feel, life is easier. Because as myself, as Michael Lee, that's more challenging. And that's, I'm growing, I'm becoming better at it. With the right people around me, with the right support system, I'm learning what the right things to do and the right things to say and the right things to feel are. But my personality is as such that I keep a lot of things inside. And I need some sort of device to let it out. And theater has been that for me. So I'm very lucky.
Interesting.
That, yeah.
What do you do when you're not performing? What's your favorite pastime?
I love playing with my sons. I don't think there's enough time in the day for me to do enough of that. They inspire me. They inspire me day after day, hour after hour, minute after minute. They do things that just sort of make me sort of see different parts of myself and life that is really inspiring.
How old are they?
In Korean age, they are 10 and 8. They're both they both started elementary school. And so I love spending time with them and watching them play. And I love spending time with my family. My wife is my best friend. And with work being as busy as it is, there are time constraints on everything. And that's the challenge of life, isn't it? So.
The most important question, your hair.
That is the most important question.
You've been growing it out?
It's probably more of a function of laziness more than anything.
I see. Not for a particular role?
I just finished the sole run of Notre Dame de Paris. All of the actors who play this part are generally wigged, and I hate wigs. So I asked if I could use my own hair and grow my hair out for that reason. But you know, as an actor, you do what you need to do. If a part will require me to cut my hair, I'll cut it in a second. I'm not attached to it. But you know, hair, you know probably as well as anybody, is an expression of yourself.
Sure.
And I don't know if it's an expression that I'm lazy or or just don't want to cut my hair, but from the beginning of time, you know, it sort of represents freedom.
Sure.
It sort of represents expression and self-expression. And so I will admit that I like having long hair. And you know what's wonderful is that my oldest son is following in my footsteps. He's in 3rd grade and he has long hair.
Oh,
And
good,
he gets
good.
teased about it all the time, but he'll stick by it. He wants to have long hair just like Dad.
All right. Well, we're almost at the end of our interview. If you could share with us some of your future plans.
My future plans. Well, I just opened Rocky Horror Show at the Hongik Arts Center in Taeyangno. And later this year, we will be starting our local Korean tour of Notre Dame de Paris. So both of those shows will be running concurrently. And at the end of August, I'll be going to Taiwan to do a week of shows in Taipei, which I'm really looking forward to as well. So those are my immediate future plans. We are in talks about concerts and other shows, but nothing has been solidified yet.
All right. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
Thank you very much. It's been so much fun.
Singing, dancing, and acting, Michael does it all to a T. I'm sure his ambitions will take him to other exciting projects and performances as well. We'll look forward to them. That was our interview for this week. Do join us again, same time next week.